In this video, we are going to take a look at a review of a concept of plugging in function values. This is something you should have seen in Algebra 1, but we're going to go through a bunch of examples just to kind of review what to do with this. Our first example is just talking about making a table of values, which you've already seen. All you're going to be doing here is you're going to plug in x to find y. Now make sure with these video notes that you're copying down everything into them. So for example, if we're going to plug in the first one, you'll do 3 times -1 minus 2, and you'll get your answer of -5. You can always do that right in the calculator too, or mentally. Once you get a couple numbers, you'll notice the pattern, which is something we looked at in the first review. This is something called a continuous function. So the table is just a set of points that you would then connect with a line. So the line is the continuous function rather than what's called a discrete set of points, which we looked at in the previous notes. So the only difference with plugging in to something like this and function notation is that we're going to change over and we're going to do or use these three notations. You can really use many other letters, but these are the most popular. F of x equals, g of x equals, h of x. You can put many letters in front, but F for function is usually the most popular, and then going forward in the alphabet, G and H. All of these will mean y equals. So if we were going to take that expression or equation, from up above, y equals 3x minus 2 will become f of x equals 3x minus 2. And all this does is it gives us a place to plug into. So right here, this allows a place to plug in, or to show what you're plugging in. Okay, so we're just going to do a couple examples with this. Essentially what you did on that first intro exercise, first day of school, is something that we're going to go back and do again, just with a slightly different notation. Alright, so our first example, we have f of x equals 3x plus 5. Similar to the original problem, this means we're going to plug in 5. And then we're going to evaluate. So f of 5 equals 3 times 5 plus 5. And make sure to replace every x in the expression. So that'll become 15 plus 5, or 20. So f of 5 is 20. This does not mean f times 5, so there's no solving to do with this. You're just evaluating an expression, like an order of operations, getting an answer. Same thing with -3. We're going to plug in -3. That's going to equal -9 plus 5, which is -4. Now the important thing here is, in terms of steps that I'm going to be looking for, make sure that you're plugging in the value, so you are at least showing this step of the plug-in, and then you can go right to the final answer. So if you're using a calculator to plug it straight in, that's okay. You can skip that middle step, but you must show those two steps. Okay, next thing, same thing, plugging it in, only we have 2 spaces we're now going to plug in. Make sure when you have something squared or on any of these, always use parentheses when you're doing plugging in. If you're typing it straight in the calculator, use parentheses in the calculator. It's important for squaring because sometimes if you plug in a negative and it doesn't come out to the correct answer, that means you're not using the correct amount of parentheses. Again, in terms of steps, you could plug it straight in, so at least showing this step, and then you could go right to that final answer. -3 is the one that would create the issue. So if it were a positive one, you could get away without the parentheses on there. Here, you need the parentheses. Otherwise, you will not come out with the correct answer. So you'll see I'm showing some in-between steps. Obviously, you can try these without the calculator if you don't feel you need it. If you are using your calculator, you need to show the first and last step that I'm showing on all of these examples. All right, we're going to do one more example with plugging in, and then we'll do a set of notes for the expressions in a separate video, so you can kind of take a break. With these videos, you can always pause if you need to finish copying something down, rewind something, rewatch. So that's a nice thing about a video. If you miss something, you can always go back. Okay. All right, so in this last example, where we're finding the range given the domain, you are going to plug in all 3 values in the brackets into your function. These are x values, so you're plugging them all in for x. So we're going to do each one, f of -2, plug it right in. I'm not going to show workout for this because we're going to be doing 3 of them, so we will just plug in the values, get the answers, and then we'll record our final answer in the bracket notation. So we're finding f of 0 and f of 3. All right, so for these types of questions where you have, when I'm asking you for a domain or for range, you want to write it out, final answer, in the bracket notation, same way that we did on the previous examples. Okay, and then the next video, these are all the ones where we plugged in values. The next video, we will look at plugging in expressions.